Bright MLS just announced a new Off-MLS policy for all the homes for sale. What does it mean for consumers? Tune in to Tom's Take right now. Welcome back to the show. I'm Tom Toole. We got two amazing team members here, Stacey Bauer and Paul Harootunian, and we are talking about this new off-market or off-MLS listing policy announced by Bright. And Bright, as our local MLS here, they also serve parts of Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey. So let me share the policy with everyone, and then we're going to talk about what it actually means, because it sounds like there was a lot of confusion about this when this launched last week. So here's the new policy, and this is verbatim from Bright's website. Within one business day of marketing a property to the public, the participant, meaning the agent, must submit the listing to Bright MLS for cooperation with other Bright MLS participants. Public marketing includes, but is not limited to, flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing sites, brokerage website displays, including an IDX and VOW, those are feeds to go to other websites if you don't know what that means. Digital communications marketing, parentheses, email blasts, multi-brokerage listing sharing networks, and applications available to the general public. So, sounds pretty scary. You guys read the policy. We talked about this because these are two of our major listers on our team, so we wanted to get really clear on what to do and what not to do for our clients. Stacey, why don't you jump in with what your takeaways are from the new policy?
Yeah, I mean, originally I know I reached out probably within minutes of this email coming out just because I had a listing coming up. So I think it was really unclear and there was a lot of confusion with this original email that they sent out to everybody. From what you just read, it sounds like you can't do anything. Mm-hmm. So that was the initial take on reading that. And after some clarification, that's really not the case. So I think they caused an unnecessary frenzy among a lot of offices with this initial email, and it could have been explained a little more clearly, I think.
The frenzy was so bad, just to give you some context, that the post on the Bright Facebook page had 969 comments within like a couple hours. I mean, it was bananas.
Yeah.
There was people were going insane over this. So you think the messaging should have been a little clearer. Mm-hmm. Paul, what's your take?
My biggest take was that, you're not allowed to have any showings at that time period anyhow. So, just be true and have some integrity and don't let anybody in through, because that's really not helping anybody, and it evens the playing field.
Well, and what's best for the seller is to have as many people competing as possible, right? Mm-hmm. So that's usually the goal here with these things. So I got a chance earlier today, actually, to talk to John Coyle. He's down in Maryland. He is the chairman of the executive committee with Bright MLS, and he spent about 40 minutes on the line with myself and Scott Compa from New Jersey. We had some questions. We wanted to get them answered. And the thing people don't realize is there's a lot of like this pre-marketing. We're big on pre-marketing. It gets our clients better results very clearly, and that is still allowed. There's a status called coming soon, and this is probably the big contention point. And the coming soon status will continue to be available within the Bright system for listings that are not being shown and actively marketed. So you can actively market them, you just can't bring buyers through.
Right.
So if you guys ever run into the situation, this is probably the reason for this, where the home's on the market a day, it's sold by the same office, and there's no photos, no description.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what they're trying to avoid here, which doesn't benefit the consumer, specifically the seller. Now the other issue, the one problem I see with this is that, let's say it's like a high status person, like a celebrity or a pro athlete, or maybe they just run a large corporation in the area. They want some privacy. So they have to put their home on the MLS. They have to list it there. So what do you guys think about that part of the policy? Because that seems to me where the fault is.
I mean, I think it's probably not very often that we come across those where they don't want it in there. But like you said, there are circumstances, high-profile celebrity, somebody with a restraining order, going through divorce.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want that publicized out there for specific reasons, and kind of, isn't fair to them to have to do that.
Oh, and we've run into this. I mean, very recently we talked about this where someone buys a home and maybe their ex is entitled to a part of that as part of the settlement, right? So, I mean, that you were trying to avoid that particular situation with somebody, and it's not uncommon. I mean, we're not going to give out any names here, obviously. So, do you see that as a shortcoming for the policy here? I mean, I'm looking at what's best for everybody. So, what's your take on that? Because you've dealt with a couple of those scenarios you laid out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, in terms of that, if they have to go the route where they don't want it out there, it's not going to get as much attraction. So that's going to be a detriment to them in the long run, in terms of selling. But, the policy is what it is, and certain things we have to adhere to.
Yeah, well, I've had to sell one off market for a reason like that recently, and we had it marketed a couple different ways, just not actually on the MLS because the seller was an ex-realtor, and he didn't want all his realtor friends to know about the property, and it was a little bit challenging. We got it sold. Could he have gotten more? I'm clear he would have.
Right.
That was his call. Like, that's the issue. It's not always what's best for the consumer. So when I asked John about that specifically on the call, he had said they could opt out of the IDX feed. That's an option in the MLS, so you don't have to have it displayed everywhere.
Right.
I don't agree with that if you're trying to get the best terms and best price.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the option that he gave. And to your point, I don't know that you're really going to get a policy that fits everyone all the time.
Right.
So anything else you want to touch on here, Paul? Did you have anything you wanted to add, or any other concerns, questions?
Just on that, I mean, that's such a small percentage of the people, but like you said, we still marketed in different ways and got it sold, which we do anyhow. So it is a plus. But yeah, they're going to get less traction.
Well, and the issue with that is they may force someone to go like for sale by owner or with a non-MLS participant. So that's where maybe the membership isn't fully supported. So there's got to be, I'm sure there's some policy they can come up with. I know NAR is going to vote on this pretty soon here. That's the National Association of Realtors. And my interpretation of this is that they want to make sure that people are getting as much as they can for their home.
Right.
They want to make sure the competition is level. And you really have two options in these situations. You can sit here and complain about it, or you can embrace it and figure out what to do and pivot. And that's what a good business person is going to do. So for the people watching, if you've got someone that's saying, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, that's where you might need a second opinion. That's where you might need to talk to someone who understands this very clearly, because rules say one thing, but when you dive into it, I mean, there was a couple misconceptions just over the past few days talking about this policy here. So that's kind of the short of it. That's what it means for buyers and sellers. John Coyle, thank you for coming on the line with us. I want to give you a shout out here, and I appreciate your time doing that. And obviously, if you got any direct questions about the policy, you know where to get in touch. We'll catch you next week.